Hi, good morning. I'm Daniele Manfredini. Welcome to this live event of the Italian Study Group of Craniomandibular Disorders. This morning we are going to talk about how to assess awake bruxism via smartphone-based technology. As you know, this is one of our most interesting projects, and I'm really happy to say that the idea was based on a very interesting project developed by my good friend Alessandro Bracci. And you know that we have worked a lot in the past few months and years on the concept of assessing awake bruxism with smartphone based on the ecological momentary assessment technology. For those of you who are interested, we have also educational video on the GSID platform on YouTube, so browse the YouTube channels and search for the GSID channel and you will find some interesting videos on awake bruxism assessment. Before moving on to the description of the strategy and the application we are using to assess awake bruxism, I think it is important for you as clinicians and researchers to get back to some preliminary remarks. First of all, we have to consider that we are living a sort of bruxism revolution. You all know that a couple of years ago we published, together with some other friends, a consensus paper which was the update of the 2013 consensus paper, and now in the 2018 paper in the Journal of Rehabilitation, we for the first time have defined awake bruxism separately from sleep bruxism, and the definition is the one you can see in this slide. Awake bruxism is a masticatory muscle activity during wakefulness characterized by repetitive or sustained tooth contact and or by bracing or thrusting of the mandible. Of course, it is not necessarily a movement disorder in otherwise healthy individuals. What is most important for this, concerning this definition for you as clinicians and researchers, is that this is a paper that set a sort of new tone, a new era for the bruxism research, because for the first time we started to consider bruxism as something that it is not necessarily related with tooth contact and with tooth grinding. So our basic idea when developing the app for assessing awake bruxism is that bracing the jaw muscles for hours or days or months and so on is the most important factor to overload the temporomandibular joint and the jaw muscles. So basically, awake bruxism, if prolonged, is one of the main risk factors for having TMJ or jaw muscle pain. So that's why it is really important to get back to the basis and try to evaluate and assess this condition. For those of you who are interested in getting deeper into the bruxism consensus paper, there is another video commenting the paper in our GSID YouTube channel. So this is the drawback theory. From the emotions and the, let me say, psychological overload and tension, patients activate the jaw muscles, and that work is responsible, of course, without a clear linear relationship, of the onset of symptoms and signs and concerning everything concerning the possible dysfunction of the stomatognathia system. So, of course, this is really important for you as clinicians approaching this field, because it has nothing to do with the old gnatological theories concerning the dogmas of dental occlusion and body posture and so on, but we have to work on the cognitive and behavioral part of the issue, educating patients to control the work they do with their muscles. And since it is based on their emotions, sometimes it may be difficult to limit the host response to this attitude. So our problem was how to assess awake bruxism, because of course there may be a lot of strategies, mainly based on questionnaires, but who knows if the answers provided by the patients are actually reliable and valid clinically. But what is really important for us to note is that many patients, based on our experience, are not even able to recognize what we call the rest position of the mandible with the muscles in a relaxed condition, because very few patients with temporomandibular disorders are able to realize that in natural conditions our teeth should not touch each other. So basically part of our work is to teach patients to keep the teeth apart and to avoid touching the antagonist arches. The relaxed jaw muscle condition is quite different from a condition in which the muscles are kept contracted and tense, and that condition of prolonged tension in the jaw muscles may be compared to having a market bag with your biceps. In the end, even if you are really trained and the bag is not so heavy, you will feel some fatigue in your biceps. So why should the jaw muscles be behaving in the same way? That's why we tried to use this ecological approach to teach patients how to become aware of their condition and try to change the behavior. So the background was the potential usefulness to manage temporomandibular disorder patients, the background for the BruxApp project. But the main concept is that we can use this ecological momentary assessment strategy, which involves repeated sampling of some behaviors in real time in an individual's home or natural environment, so while running normal and usual daily activities. The novelty is not the ecological momentary assessment approach, which is well known and has been used in the fields of psychology and behavioral medicine for years, but the novelty is to use it via mobile technology. And this is the real merit of Alessandro, who some years ago developed this application, BruxApp, which is the core of our research strategies. And we decided to use it to identify some possible conditions of pertinence for awake bruxism. We listed 5 oral conditions, and independent on the background I introduced you, these are the most important slides of my brief presentation, because for you as clinicians and especially for you as researchers, it is really important to make patients aware of what you are indicating when listing these 5 possible conditions. So the goal of videos like the one we are recording now is to try to standardize the way we convey the message to the patients, and the patients should be able to at least try to identify 5 possible conditions. The good one is having the jaw muscles relaxed. Then there is the possibility of having the teeth in contact with slight steady touching, or being involved in teeth clenching, teeth grinding, or mandible bracing. Listing the condition one by one, we should start teaching the patient the physiological condition of the jaw muscle. We should be relaxed without teeth contact. So patients should be taught that in normal condition the mandibles should be separated, the muscles around the mouth should stay relaxed and not tense. So drop the teeth apart and relax the jaw muscles. How to identify this condition? For me, and that's my experience, it is sometimes better to start teaching one of the negative conditions, which is the number 2, teeth contact. The patients sometimes don't even realize that they are touching the teeth during the day, or at least they don't consider that as an abnormal activity. Okay, so what I teach them is to try to identify the very light muscle tension they have to develop just to bring the teeth into contact with the antagonist arches. Of course, for international publications, we are trying to standardize that activity, and we can summarize it as the activity that is needed to maintain a thin foil like the domopac or an articulating paper between the arches and keep it in the position. Anyway, this teeth contact position is not good for our jaw muscles, and of course, when the activity of the jaw muscles is even stronger, we define it as a strong, steady touching. The condition is the teeth clenching. Teeth clenching is basically the condition in which the contacts between the teeth are more marked than the previous condition, and the jaw muscles are kept more tense. We could define it as a strong teeth contact without any mandible movement. Contrary to teeth clenching, there's a mandible movement in the condition number 4, teeth grinding, which is the condition in which the opposite teeth are gnashed or ground without full interposition, independently by the intensity and direction of the antagonist teeth contact. This is a condition which is quite well recognized by the patient when we try to explain them how to identify it, but honestly it is really rare during wakefulness. And then the addition of the consensus papers, mandible bracing, which is, in our experience, for preliminary data, based on preliminary data, one of the most frequent condition which is reported by the patient. Bracing is defined as a sort of jaw clenching without teeth contact, and is a condition in which the patient refers jaw muscle stiffness or tension, like if he is clenching the teeth but without having teeth contact. So if you start listing the negative condition, it could be easier for the patient to recognize the number 1. So the relaxed condition is when you don't have any of the 4 negative conditions, and you don't have any tension in your jaw muscles, you don't have any teeth contact between your jaw dental arches. How is the smartphone-based evaluation functioning? Basically, the 5 oral conditions are listed in the display of the application BruxApp every time patient receives an alert, and we will see how it works in a couple of minutes. Using the BruxApp application has a twofold goal. The first goal is to move from ecological momentary assessment to ecological momentary intervention. So whilst the first goal is to evaluate and assess the condition, the second goal is to intervene, trying to modify the negative attitude by the patient. And believe me, just working with this kind of application and teaching patients how to control the jaw muscles during the day will be an incredible strategy to try to solve your jaw muscles, your patient with jaw muscle pain and TMD pain. I always say that from the time when I started using BruxApp, I started manufacturing less oral appliances than in the past, because what the patients do during the day is really much more important or at least is important, because just in terms of hours, we are awake much more hours than when we are sleeping. Okay, so the proportion is at least 2:1. So the effectiveness of the oral appliances during sleep without any control of wakefulness is inevitably partial. That's why we believe that there's the possibility via BruxApp to move on also to the intervention approaches. Of course, using the application has important developments also in the fields of research, because based on our consensus paper, we have decided to avoid using standard or preconceived cutoff points to establish if a patient is a bruxer or not, and we decided to evaluate bruxism in the continuum of the experience, in this case during wakefulness. So the bruxism construct, as you can see in this very recent publication, is moving on from the era of cutoff points to the era of a continuum spectrum of activities. Concerning the ecological momentary assessment, we have prepared a list of selected readings based on the preliminary data we have gathered over the past 3 years or so. And what about the main findings and information we can convey to you? First, BruxApp has been translated in more than 20 languages, and we had already more than 5,000 downloads. So there are research centers involved in the project of collecting data at worldwide level. The expected compliance from your patient should be more than 60% of the alerts they receive. And this is really important, because if a patient is not well motivated by you or for his or her problems, the data are not reliable from a scientific and research viewpoint, but are also not really useful in terms of possibility of intervene to have a real behavioral effect in the clinical setting. The expected frequency rate for the relaxed condition in average healthy young individuals is around 60 to 70%, and in our experience, patients with temporomandibular disorder-related pain have an opposite and inverted proportion. So they are relaxed 30 or less % of the time they receive an alert, and they are doing something with their jaw muscles in the other times they receive an alert. So we got already some empirical clinical evidence that this kind of approach may be really useful to complement the management of TMD-related pain. So these are basically the background of the awake bruxism era in future, and also the background of why we are using the application. Then in this final part of my presentation, I want to give a message to the researchers, because BruxApp, and let me say that this is the most important part of the lecture, BruxApp has been used by many colleagues around the world, and it is really important that to mesh the data together and to really have the possibility to compare the data cross-culturally and cross-centrally for multi-center comparisons, ethnic and gender, or whatever you want. It is really important that the message is conveyed to the patient in the very same way. That's why we have provided you with this very simple definition of the 5 oral conditions. But I want also to convey you some messages concerning how to use the research version of BruxApp. So how BruxApp is working. The patient can receive up to 20 alerts per day, every day, and we set the ideal, of course arbitrarily, time frame for an observation period at 7 days or more. You have to tell your patient to go into browsing their stores, Google or Apple Store, and for research purposes you have to tell them to download the research version, the blue one, so not the green one, which is the version that can be used by everyone for clinical purposes and may be also downloaded by the patients by accident, okay? But the blue one, the research version. So if you ask them to download this version, the first information is that appears on your screen is that you have to authorize the application to send you the notification, and of course you have to read the instructions carefully. Instructions are not there just by compliment, but they are there because there are some very important notices on how and why using this application. The advantage of using BruxApp Research is that it has fixed presettings, so basically the patient cannot do any damage. He or she can only change the type of sound alerts, and the patients are asked to insert the research identifier and the password. If you decide to enter the BruxApp family to perform researches under the GSID umbrella, you will receive a dedicated password for your research group. So basically BruxApp Research cannot be used by accident just because someone downloaded it. How does it work? Basically, BruxApp, this is true also for the basic version, but of course also for the research version, sends a sound alert, and at the time he or she receives the alert, the patient has to self-check the oral condition and to try to put the attention, to focus the attention on how the jaw muscles and the teeth are in that specific moment. After the alert, within a time frame of 5 minutes, no more, otherwise we lose the real-time possibility to get a real-time data. After that, within 5 minutes, the patient had to tap on the notification on your iPhone. This is an action that it is not necessary for Android mobiles, because for Android mobiles the screen already shows the display of BruxApp, and now after clicking on the notification you have to tap on your current oral condition. So you have to basically give the app an information if your muscles are relaxed, if you are contacting the teeth, if you are clenching the teeth, if you are grinding the teeth, or if you are bracing your mandible. Finally, after you tap on the display, you have to tap on the save function on the upper right corner of your screen. The research target is to assess the frequency of the 5 oral conditions to gather data on the epidemiology of awake bruxism. So that's why it is really important that the patient have a good compliance, and that you explain them how to recognize the different conditions. So BruxApp is not something that you can give the patient just by joke or just prescribing it by phone. It requires explanation. Once the information is saved, there are some additional questions concerning the possible presence or absence of pain, and if yes, the location and the intensity of pain. For the Android users, which by the way are the ones who are a bit penalized by the difficulties to develop an application for so many branches of mobiles, the screen will not be visible until the phone screen is unlocked, okay? And it disappears after 5 minutes. So this means that you will not see any notification highlighted in the background, but you will see directly the BruxApp screen after you unlocked the screen. So if you heard the sound alert, take your mobile and unlock the screen to answer directly about the current condition of your teeth and jaw muscles. Of course, very basic suggestion, don't set the volume too low or don't use too gentle ringtone for the alert. Remember, for the BruxApp research version, the patient should answer at least 12 alerts per day, which is a datum that is based on the 60% compliance that we published a couple of months ago as the average expected compliance rate by collaborating individuals. So it means that 8 alerts per day can be ignored, but it is important that to have a valid alert, the patient answered within 5 minutes. As an additional note, please tell the patient that if she or he receives the alert while speaking or eating, or running, they must not answer. For any day in which you don't reach the 12 alert threshold, so the 60% threshold, you will be added an additional day until the target of 7 valid days is reached. After 7 valid days, BruxApp stops automatically. The patient can have access to diagrams and graphs to evaluate and to condivide with the clinician the data. And of course, he or she is asked to continue the observation and monitoring period. Of course, the very basic evaluation the patient receives after these 7 days doesn't have any usefulness or any presumption to be a clinical diagnosis or medical assessment scopes. Okay, so it is important that you discuss the data with the patients. Okay, that's not a diagnosis, but it is nice that the patient can verify the data day by day and condition by condition with some graphs and diagrams like that. Okay, especially this pie chart is really important because the patient can check the data as the result of the percentage of times that during the observation period they answer in a certain way. Okay, so the relaxed, bracing, teeth clenching, teeth contact and grinding conditions are all represented with different colors, and of course this is a really useful message to share with your clinician. Of course, hey, I'm the grinder, so I got the world record. Some weeks ago I received a patient with 0% of relaxed condition out of 90 alerts answered over the recording period. So the question I have, how as dentist can you think that an individual with 0% of relaxed condition is a neurological problem? Of course, we got an orthopedic, psychological, behavioral condition that reflects in orthopedic pain. But we have to address this percentage and we have to educate patients to move on the needle of their diagram onto the normality value, which is around 60 or 70% of relaxed answer. In every moment, for any reason, the patient can be allowed to suspend or resume the session. So there's a settings icon on the BruxApp home display, and there is a function to suspend and then to resume the session. When there's a red bar, it means on the top of the screen there's an interrupted session, so the patient had to resume it at their earliest convenience. And now the final part, how to export this data. Now we are working on cloud databases, but the most important part so far for the researchers is that we have prepared a function to export the data directly in a CSV file that can be emailed or WhatsApped to the clinician, and that file can be automatically uploaded into an Excel file for statistical analysis. Basically, there's a function when the patient goes to the icon charts, data, there's the function to export the data, and it is quite intuitive for the iPhone. For the Android mobiles, the procedure is quite the same. The icons are slightly different. So there's the data icon on the BruxApp home. There's the sort of cloud on the right upper part of the screen after you open the data screenshot, and then you have to choose how to send the CSV file to the selected reference clinician via WhatsApp or email. So this is the CSV file that you, as researchers, when you have received the file from the patient, can easily convert into an Excel file. These are some notes that Alessandro has put in this presentation. For instance, alert type 3 refers to the awakening alert, but don't be bothered by these issues because there is an email address to which you can send all your questions concerning your doubts and questions. So for the iPhone mobiles, the situation is quite clear. There's nothing else that you and your patients should do. For the Android mobiles, there are some additional settings that are really important to achieve a perfect functioning of the application. First, the BruxApp data storage has to be enabled in the authorization of the app. Of course, please know that each brand using Android platforms has its own phone settings, so even if the name of these settings may be different, the main concept does not change at all. So authorize whatever it is in the icon in your phone, authorize the application to store the data in your phone. Also for Android, the battery energy saving application must be disabled. So again, don't use BruxApp in this condition of battery energy saving mode. And then the run in the background application must be enabled. Some smartphones need this particular setting, which is quite difficult to find. Basically, it means that you have to allow the application to work in the background even if you are not using the phone. Okay, there's a setting which is specific for each brand of mobiles, and please search for it and try to enable it. In spite of these suggestions, BruxApp is compatible for Android version 6 and higher, but not yet for Android 10 at the moment, because the software developers are still working on this definition of compatibility. This means that, willing it or not, and we are sorry for that, this means that about 5% of the Android smartphones are not compatible with the application. And then the final message. First of all, I would really like to say thank you to Alessandro Bracci for having this wonderful idea, which is a really life-changing idea in our profession. But even more important than that, I want to say to everyone that Alessandro and his colleagues are working on this huge project basically for free. There are no national grants, no funding. So if you have any questions or some even malfunctioning concerns, please send some constructive messages, because there are no multinational companies working on this very enthusiast-based project. So thanks again, Alessandro. And now my message for you as researchers who want to be involved in the project. This is not a joke. We are developing new guidelines to assess bruxism as a whole and awake bruxism in this specific project. You all know that the STAB, the standardized tool for the assessment of bruxism, is on the way of publication. And the last thing we can afford now is to publish unreliable data. So since all these projects are based on the reports of the patients, it is really important that if you want to be involved in any data gathering projects, you follow the instruction really carefully and take part, as for the DC, TMD and the other international guidelines, to some educational activities on temporomandibular disorders and awake bruxism. The temporomandibular disorders camp with the tutors and our GSID team is the nicest occasion to do that, and it is really an invitation for you to take these kind of projects seriously. For any technical problem, this is the reference email, contact@bruxapp.info, and the software developers will answer you at the earliest convenience. So we are waiting for you at our GSID event. These are just pictures of the recent past and the wonderful moments, funny and scientific moments we have just lived over the past few years. And always remember that the 4-step principles for constructive formation we put forward GSID are the basis of the future in this very delicate pain medicine field, if we really want to protect our patients from overtreatment. So sharing, teaching, educating and talking like peers is what I personally believe as the main message. So thanks again, stay tuned. I hope you have enjoyed this actually pretty long live event on Facebook, and we wish you all the best for the rest of your day and professional activities. Bye bye.